This is the CBC News election headquarters. After 40 days of campaigning in this federal election, tomorrow, Canada votes. And this is where we will crunch the numbers and analyze the results of your decisions at the polls. Will you give Justin Trudeau a second mandate? How will Andrew Scheer and Jagmeet Singh fare in their first run for the job of Prime Minister? And just how much power will the Bloc Québécois hold by the end of the night? It's all up to you now on this eve of the election.
How's it going?
Thanks for all your help.
Tonight, we'll take you inside the final push. We're with the party leaders as they make their closing pitches, how Canadians here and abroad are weighing their decision. And our war room insiders on how the parties are preparing for a likely minority government.
Also tonight, Donald Trump does a rare about-face over hosting the G7 at his Florida golf course. And
money's gone and no one's there to help me.
Thousands of dollars stolen from his bank account. Our Go Public team investigates. This is The National.
These are the quiet hours on this set before things start to get pretty exciting tomorrow. This is the center of the action for all your Canada Votes results, and there'll be lots of people here tomorrow night to help guide you through it along with myself. We'll have results reporters, we'll have At Issue will be here, we'll have lots of special guests from the different parties that will pop up to give us their real-time analysis. And this floor that I'm standing on is more than just a floor. This floor actually becomes part of the story as things rise up from the floor and politicians even appear as holograms to react to what Canada has decided and how Canada has changed over the course of the evening. And sitting to my left will be none other than Power and Politics host Vashi Kapelas. She, of course, has been covering the election all the way through, and so she will be my left-hand man tomorrow night. So it's going to be exciting. We don't really know how it's going to turn out. What are you going to be watching for?
I think from the beginning of this campaign, it's been defined by how close the two lead parties are, the Conservatives and the Liberals. When their share of the popular vote dropped so that they were out of majority territory, their messages sharpened, and I'm going to be watching to see if those messages of the past week punch through. So that idea that in order to stop the other guy, you have to vote for us, that message around strategic voting, will it turn enough votes to impact the outcome in a meaningful way? That's what I'm watching for.
Okay, good. And you'll be helping me to watch through all that.
I look forward to it.
Get some sleep. That's Vashi Kapelas of Power and Politics. She, of course, just some of the people that will be here all through election night tomorrow. For the major party leaders, it was a jam-packed final day of campaigning with a common focus. British Columbia, the Conservatives, Greens, Liberals and NDP were all in that province because, as Evan Dyer shows us, no party has a lock on those votes.
Liberals in British Columbia, we love the rain.
BC voters are used to elections being decided in the East before their votes are even counted. Not this time.
We need to get out over the rest of today, be super active tomorrow with our neighbors, with our friends, as volunteers, right across the Lower Mainland, right across British Columbia, right across the country.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Vancouver.
The same calculations brought the Conservatives to the Lower Mainland to warn that a vote for the Liberals will empower New Democrats.
Now, in the dying days of this campaign, Trudeau is again leaving the door open to a coalition government with the NDP. Dealing away your hard-earned tax dollars to the NDP.
As the campaigns wind down, no party has even secured a third of voter intentions, far short of what's traditionally needed for a majority. There's been some growth for the NDP, but other than that, little movement in the numbers. And what makes BC so attractive to the parties is its volatility, with many races, four-way toss-ups, including the Greens.
You can win ridings in the low 30s there, so it's unique that way, and I think particularly in this race, because it's not just a three-way vote split as we've seen in a lot of past Canadian federal elections.
Just as the Liberals and Conservatives trade charges of deception on the national stage, the Greens and New Democrats have fought their own skirmishes with each other.
The NDP continue to lie about the Greens. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to endure because I thought I had a good relationship with Jagmeet Singh.
Oh my goodness!
Both Singh and May are expected to hang on to their own seats, which are relatively safe by BC standards. A riding that's anything but safe is Vancouver-Granville, where former Liberal Cabinet Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould is running as an independent in a tight four-way race. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
So almost 6 weeks of a campaign. How are all the parties feeling? Our reporters have been following the major leaders, and we asked them to gauge the mood on the campaign trail.
I'm Salima Shivji in Vancouver, where Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is banking on rallies like this one to project confidence heading into tomorrow. His team isn't celebrating prematurely, nor are they panicked. What they are is very careful, razor focused on the goal at hand. Get out the vote and stay on message. Now, Trudeau didn't take questions from reporters today. The Liberals cast it as a way to speak directly to voters, but it's a very different Justin Trudeau than we saw in 2015. It highlights the need for him to really stay on his message track. But in an attempt to still seem approachable at rallies like this, Trudeau has ditched his teleprompter, really talking off the cuff, feeding off of his supporters, and throwing in anecdotes about his father, knowing that every word counts at this late stage.
I'm Katie Simpson in Vancouver, covering Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. The best way to describe the past few days is crunchy. There have been some uncomfortable moments along with bursts of momentum, all indicative of just how tight this race really is. Scheer has been criticized by his opponents for recent claims not based on evidence about potential Liberal and NDP tax hikes, and his refusal to answer questions on whether his party was behind a professional mudslinging campaign. At the same time, Scheer appears to be energizing his base. More than 2,000 people came out to see him speak at a rally in the Greater Toronto area last night, which easily is his biggest crowd of the campaign. All he can do now is hope that that base shows up for him tomorrow.
I'm Hannah Thibodeau with the NDP campaign. At the beginning of this election, expectations were low for the NDP and leader Jagmeet Singh. But momentum turned his way in part because of how he performed in the debates. Then polling numbers started to improve. Singh believes people are tired of divisive politics, and his message, vote for hope. His energy hasn't let up either, even though he didn't take a day off over the past 40 days. His rallies can best be described as NDP mosh pits, where he always gets the crowd jumping to his campaign theme song. Here in BC yesterday, he attracted the largest crowd so far, more than 1,500 supporters. Singh started this campaign with 39 seats, and at the beginning, it looked like the NDP could lose official party status. Now it appears things have turned around. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Vancouver.
A key to success for anyone is getting voters to the polls. Our War Room panel is standing by to tackle the party's plans to do just that. Plus, what kinds of conversations are parties having right now about what happens after tomorrow? It's all still ahead in about 10 minutes. So one indication of just how tight this vote could be is how tight the polls have been really through this entire election. CBC poll analyst Eric Grenier has, of course, been tracking all of them. So the Liberals and the Conservatives consistently neck and neck from day one right until the last day.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. That close race between the two leading parties has stayed the same throughout this race from day one. What has changed is that we've seen big gains for the Bloc Québécois in Quebec, particularly after the French language debates, and for Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats after the English language debate. And because of the increase in support we've seen for the NDP and the Bloc, who each of them could win over 30 seats apiece, it just makes a minority government all the more likely because there's just not a lot of seats left over for the other two parties.
Okay, so given that, where we've talked about it really through the 6 weeks, but the key battlegrounds that you will be watching tomorrow night that we should all be watching with you?
Well, there's the Francophone regions of Quebec. At the beginning, it was all about whether the Liberals would win enough seats to get a majority government. Now it's about how many seats are going to go to the Bloc and what role is that going to play. GTA, of course, whoever wins that usually forms the government. If you see that the Liberals and the Conservatives are splitting the region, probably again a minority. And then the Lower Mainland in BC, big important region for the New Democrats, the Liberals and the Conservatives. They need to win seats there. They're all fighting it out there. We might have to wait till BC to find out what kind of government this is going to be.
And that's where we should watch for some Green Party success.
On Vancouver Island, that will be also really interesting, and their chance to make some history.
Okay, Eric, you've been with us every Sunday. Thanks for doing that. You can catch Eric tomorrow on CBC Radio 1 with our friends Susan Bonner and Chris Hall, and I'll drag him up to this studio too if I can. So there is the possibility that after this election, the Bloc Québécois could hold the balance of power in a minority government. Jayla Bernstein talked to some of the supporters who hope the Bloc will defend their interests.
In the final hours of the campaign, the Bloc Québécois has reason to cheer. Polls suggest they could quadruple their seats to 40. In a minority government, that could give the Bloc considerable influence. Yves-François Blanchet says on issues that favor Quebecers, he'll cooperate, and on issues that don't, he won't.
I will go against anything that favors the idea of having more oil transportation through Quebec, because we don't want it. You know, I don't want us to be in opposition in Her Majesty's Parliament. I want us to be the voice of Quebec.
Supporters of the Bloc Québécois say Blanchet is the only leader who will head to Ottawa and fight for what matters to Quebecers.
Je le suis devenu parce que je suis
This man says he's voting Bloc because Blanchet will protect Quebec's secularism law and stop a pipeline project.
Ça incite tout le monde à...
This 16-year-old wanted to meet the leader who she says will push for what's right.
It was really important to me to be here because I support what he does for the environment, his plan.
Le français.
This voter says he wants Blanchet to help protect the French language. Trudeau is too multicultural for him. Blanchet spent his day going after Liberal territory north of Montreal. Laval is a Liberal stronghold, but there's one riding here Blanchet thinks his party can flip. Meanwhile, the Liberal leader fought back.
Last night in Quebec, where the Bloc Québécois came out and said that its number one priority is separation, is dividing the country once again.
Blanchet calls that a lie.
Trying to scare people has been such a fashion in this campaign that we have to change the law and create a larger time between the campaign and Halloween.
He joked that Trudeau is celebrating Halloween early this year by trying to frighten voters. Jayla Bernstein, CBC News, Laval.
A possible wild card in this election, Canadians outside the country. Kim Brunherber tells us what's driving a new wave of expat voters this election. The rules have changed.
Angela Chapados, no mystery where she was born. 7 years ago, she left Montreal to teach at a school in Los Angeles. Come election time, she can't vote in the U.S. because she's not a citizen, and a law denying the vote to Canadians who have lived abroad for more than 5 years meant she was forbidden from voting in any Canadian elections.
It just makes you feel like you don't have really a place that you belong to, that you're sort of a citizen of nowhere.
This election year, that will change.
It's really nice to be able to also have a voice to shape the country that I will always feel a part of.
All thanks to 2 Canadian expats who challenged the law in the Supreme Court and won.
We were ecstatic.
Alan Nichols founded a lobby group for Canadians living abroad and argued on their behalf in the Supreme Court case. In 2015, about 11,000 expats voted. So far, more than 50,000 expats have registered to vote, and that number could have been even higher. But Nichols says many Canadian expats weren't aware the law had changed.
Certainly, the Canadian government could do a great deal more to ensure that Canadians abroad are aware of the fact that they can vote.
But even with a vote, not all expats are sure they'll cast it. Martha Smith, another former Montrealer. She's conflicted. Checking her mail daily to see if her ballot has arrived, but Smith is not entirely sure she'll use it.
Even though, as a Canadian citizen, I'm passionately committed to the political outcomes in Canada, I don't actually live there. So is it really the responsible and right thing to do?
After all, Smith says she doesn't pay Canadian taxes and no longer calls her Quebec riding home.
How are you going to make that decision?
I don't know. I think it's one of those things that I really just need to continue weighing.
Still, Smith says, at least now, she gets to choose. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, Lakewood, California.
There's more election coverage still ahead. 1 day before they cast their ballots, we ask our millennials if they know who they're going to vote for yet. And our War Room panel is standing by for the last Sunday of the campaign. But first, it's back to Adrian with a look at some of the other stories coming up here on The National. Adrian.
All right, Rosie, huge day tomorrow. But tonight, we have more news still ahead on The National, including a rare reversal from Donald Trump after backlash around the G7 being held at his own resort. We'll be right back.
My name is David Hurley.
My name is Shakir Chambers.
My name is Michael Hay.
I formerly worked for Harper's Prime Minister's office and for the Ontario government on Doug Ford's election campaign.
I ran 2 national campaigns for the Liberal Party under the leadership of Paul Martin.
In 2017, I was Jagmeet Singh's leadership campaign director.
This election will be divisive.
And the last one for at least 2 of the major party leaders.
This election will be historic.
It's almost here. Who can believe it? Election day now just hours away, and the last day of the campaign coming to an end, but not without the parties trying to show momentum and make their final pitch to voters.
We know that this is an election that is pivotal, where we're making a decision as a country that doesn't just matter for the next 4 years.
Polls opening in just a matter of hours. Let me be blunt. A Trudeau-led government with the NDP calling the shots would be the worst possible outcome for Canadians.
Vote for hope. Vote for something. Don't vote out of fear, and definitely don't settle for less. You deserve more.
Okay, so which party's momentum will translate into actual seats? What kind of conversations are the parties, the leaders having ahead of election night? Let's bring in our Sunday panel, David, Michael, and Shakir. Good to see everyone. I'm nervous, like not nervous about hosting election night, nervous to see how this all
Showtime.
lands. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So I want to start with the get out the vote. GOTV is what politicos call it. Who has the advantage, or does anyone have the advantage when it comes to that, David?
Well, I think that the Liberals and the Conservatives have historically had very strong organizations. I think for a long time the Conservatives had the best organization in the country. I think maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, the Liberals have caught up. The NDP have always had incredibly strong get-out-the-vote operations in the areas where they're competitive and where they play.
In particular,
right? And usually involving a lot more people than the other parties do. So I'm not sure that that's really a competitive advantage for anybody on the ground. The Bloc will have the weakest, and that won't really affect their vote that much because.
It is something that they think about, though, in these dying hours, is everybody sort of moves out of the war room and out into the field to try and get people working and pushing the vote.
Yeah, in the last week,
Pulling the vote.
Probably before the advance polls opened, the central campaigns would have emptied out into local ridings, and those local ridings would have been the ones that the campaigns are prioritizing, like the swing votes, the swing ridings. And what I've experienced on campaigns is that a good ground game, a good get out the vote effort can make the difference between like 3% and 5%. So it can actually be what wins you that seat.
That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot.
Well, and there are a lot of very close races
Very
going on.
close, yeah.
I think generally speaking, to that point, I think especially on the Conservative side, there's a lot of enthusiasm. But when you start looking at this, we're probably going to have major wins in like Alberta and Saskatchewan and whatnot, but it's about the efficiency, right? Like, are we going to do well in the Ontarios? Are we going to do well in the other places where we need to like grow our base to actually get our candidates over the hump? So I think that's something to look out for as far as getting out that vote. Who is really going to be beyond just our core base to kind of push our candidates over that?
So the things that we've seen over the past, week, but really the concentrated over the past 3 days, whistle stops, rallies, people trying to create a sense of momentum, whether they have it or not is another thing. How important is that to sort of just framing the day, and does that kind of thing influence voters?
It does, actually. Yeah. It does. I mean, first of all, momentum can be very important for your own supporters so that they feel that you've got something going on and they feel the energy and they're motivated by it. But there's also a bandwagon effect, right? People like to be associated with winners. There's people at the end that like they
True.
do.
No
right?
one wants to choose the loser.
Exactly. Yeah. So, how you look in these last few days, whether you look like you're limping in or whether you look like you're roaring triumphantly in, can actually persuade some people.
And is there anyone who's not looking like they're, giving it their all? I don't know. They're all pretty still full of pep and energy and bringing out people.
I think we all look pretty good. I would say, especially on my side, I think some of the news over the weekend might have blunted the message a little bit, kind of took us off track quite a bit. But I think ultimately perception matters, right? And if you're on TV and it looks like you're doing well, you're having these large rallies, people might just follow that and say, yeah, I'll cast a ballot for these.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him. Yeah.
Yeah, I think momentum and having tons of rallies helps people sign up to volunteer, and getting out the vote is really about taking a base of volunteers at a local level and applying them to identified supporters that you would have been identifying for 40 days on a local campaign. So you need a lot of volunteers. You need a good feeling in order to actually get out the vote. I'd say the challenge for the NDP is that they have a huge base of support coming from a younger population, so they probably have a lot of first-time voters. So they need a lot more help to get to the polls. If you're voting for the first time, you need to know what identification you need to bring, where you can actually go, the hours of the day. It's the first time you've ever done something, so it's a bigger effort to get out the vote. And then on top of that, we've seen in the last week or two a huge digital game by Jagmeet Singh. He's gone viral a ton of times, which is great because he doesn't have the same ad buy capacity that the Liberals and Conservatives have. But I'm interested to see tomorrow if there's a digital get out the vote strategy that corresponds with that to actually pull the youth vote out for the party.
Yeah, because a really interesting challenge for the NDP is that with their support having almost doubled in sort of the last 2 weeks, you have a ton of support you've not identified. Right? So you can't fully pull your vote because you don't know what it is. You don't even know where it is. So digital, that's where the digital part will come in, I presume.
Let's just talk about tomorrow night. So, you know, the polls show it's very close. We can debate whether it's actually that close. But we've heard over the past week people trying to position themselves around what happens tomorrow. You know, Andrew Scheer saying that the government, that the party who wins the most seats gets the first chance to govern. That's the convention. Of course, that may not end up being what happened. But how important is the response to tomorrow night? Say things are tight. How important is that response? If things aren't tight, this is all moot. But if they are as tight as they could be, positioning themselves, how important is that message? Do you want to start, Shakir?
Yeah, I think ultimately, if the Conservatives do get the majority of the seats, or the plurality of the seats, I think it's important for sure, obviously, not to concede defeat, right? If I can get a chance to govern, how would this look? Who would be on our side? But I think the biggest thing here is that for the Conservatives, there's no natural governing partnership, right? Whether it's on the left, you have the Liberals, you have the Greens, you have the NDP, who kind of overlap on policy positions. But for us, our group, we have very opposite policies. So I think for him, it's a matter of what would a partnership look like, and then ultimately never conceding defeat if you think there's a chance for you to actually form this government moving forward.
I think that Mr. Scheer has one big advantage on election night if he wins the plurality of seats. And that is that Canadians, regardless of what the constitutional conventions are or the constitutional realities are, Canadians believe that if you win the most seats, you won the election and you deserve the right to govern. And we've seen this over and over and over again. BC's a modest exception, but I saw even most recently in New Brunswick where the government won by 7 percentage points but lost by 2 seats or 1 seat. They didn't have the moral authority to govern. And so there really is this sense in Canadians that if you win the most seats, you govern. And a lot of people are going to say that, but it will say the reverse, but it will take a big pushback by the Liberals and other parties if they were to have less to say we have the right to govern. Even though we've got the most seats in the House of Commons. That's really not how Canadians see it.
Yeah, and that's important because no matter what is allowed, and that is the Prime Minister can test the confidence of the House no matter what, I think you're right. It's who has that authority to make that case. And if you're the Liberals and the NDP, maybe you just let Andrew Scheer go and see what he can do and then make a case after if he fails.
Yeah, I think, first of all, it'll be very important how we all talk about the election results after the election, because saying that somebody has the most seats does not mean that they have the majority of seats.
And doesn't mean they form government.
It doesn't mean that they form government. And what's most important is that the majority of people rule. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what our parliamentary system is about. So if that looks like a minority government under a Liberal rule that is support from multiple parties so that a majority of voters have the say over what's happening in government, then that's probably a good thing, because minority governments in Canadian history have given us things like public health care. And we actually have...
A flag.
And a flag. And we actually have what David just referenced in British Columbia. We have a premier, John Horgan, who is a premier under a minority government who says that it's something to be celebrated because he can get more work done and they find themselves working harder and faster. So I think if we end up in a minority situation, it's something that Canadians have said that they want. It's something that they've signaled, that they don't want the Conservatives to govern. They don't want a majority of Conservative power in the country. And I think it's something to celebrate too.
Okay, we've played that video of you guys introducing yourselves for many weeks now, and so now I get to throw it back at you. We're going to do one at a time. We've only got 3 minutes. Shakir, you said the election would be divisive. Was it?
I think it was. I think if you look at the rise of the Bloc and kind of what they stand for, and then you look at a province like Alberta, who feels they've been ignored quite a bit, I think there's division there. And if you look at how the political leaders have kind of characterized each other, kind of character assassination, bashing each other's candidates, if there's a minority government, I think it's going to be very hard to find areas of compromise because your bases are probably going to be very polarized and don't want to give an inch. So I think it was very divisive.
Okay. You said it would be historic.
Yeah, I think there's no question that the election will be historic, but for a number of reasons. So first of all, it will be historic after the election happens, probably because we'll spend the first week after the election trying to figure out what the election meant and who's governing and who's in power. That will be history making in and of itself. And then second of all, it's historic because Jagmeet Singh is running for Prime Minister. He's the first racialized person in Canadian history to run for Prime Minister. That in itself means a lot, but we don't even know yet the impact that that has had on another generation of people. Like, he's shifting power in this country and changing what power looks like for people, and it will take a generation for us to understand what that actually means for Canadians.
Yeah, I think that's an important storyline
put.
to watch.
Nicely put.
Okay, yours was the last election for at least 2 of the federal leaders. Maybe it's more than 2 now. I don't know.
No, I think it's probably precisely 2, and we'll know who they are tomorrow night. But this has ultimately been an election that focused very much around leadership. It's not gelled around a policy idea or a real choice, and it's coming down to leadership. And so it will be the leaders who lost who have actually failed to do this campaign right. And so I think that they'll lose their jobs.
Was it a good one to watch, or not your favorite so far? Probably not your favorite, I would guess.
No, I mean, if you compare it to 2015, for example, from a Liberal perspective, 2015 was an incredibly inspiring exercise, and you felt, like you were really going to bring change to the country, and there was such excitement and momentum around that campaign. This, being an incumbent re-election campaign, is inherently a little bit more grounded, a little bit more prose, as Hillary Clinton would say, and a little bit less poetry. And that's what it's looked and felt like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of the people who thinks it was about nothing, but I'm not sure it was about the something that it should have been about. Was that? I don't know how you feel about it.
I think ultimately that's what David said. I think because it's not really a change election, it was hard to kind of find that motivation, inspiration. I think if you talk to people who are not in the weeds like we are, they have a hard time understanding what this was about, and they're kind of looking at what are really my options here, right? So I think, there was something lacking.
Like 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think for the NDP, it was a very good election, or it will be a very good election for the party, considering where they started from. Jagmeet Singh has exceeded expectations going into this election. I think, though, that not for the NDP, but for the Liberals particularly, there were some really cringeworthy moments that unearthed conversations in Canadian politics that were difficult for everybody to have.
All right. Thank you all for being here every Sunday throughout the campaign. We will call you back.
Thank you for having us.
This is not the end of our relationship. Thank you all. And of course, tomorrow is the big day. CBC News is your destination for all the results and analysis. Here's another behind-the-scenes look at the making of our election headquarters, where I'll be leading our team for this special coverage. You don't want to miss any of the action. It begins at 6:30 Eastern. Canada Votes 2019. See you tomorrow. Can't wait for it. Now back to Adrian.
All right, Rosie, when we come back, cyber criminals targeting personal bank accounts. What is the responsibility of the bank when your account is hacked? We look into it after the break. Welcome back. So here's something interesting. Donald Trump reversing a decision. That is not something you see every day. Last night, he canceled plans to hold next year's G7 summit at one of his own golf resorts. And today, as Paul Hunter tells us, a senior member of Trump's team was doing some backpedaling of his own.
It's all about this place, Donald Trump's very own golf resort in Florida, Trump National Doral, chosen by Trump last week to host next year's G7 summit, an event sure to fill every room, bring untold publicity to his property, and in so doing, say critics, make Trump a ton of money. Though Trump himself said he would not profit.
He wanted to put on a show. He wanted to take care of folks.
Today, Trump's acting chief of staff took on Trump's critics, who were so vociferous on this that late yesterday, under pressure, Trump reversed his decision, tweeting, "The G7 will be elsewhere instead, based on both media and Democrat crazed and irrational hostility. For those who suggested Trump was using the power of the office for his own personal reward, said Mulvaney today,
he was honestly surprised at the level of pushback. At the end of the day, he still considers himself to be in the hospitality business, and he saw an opportunity to take the biggest leaders from around the world, and he wanted to put on the absolute best show, the best visit that he possibly could. And he was
on that description of how Trump sees himself, Fox News host Chris Wallace jumped.
I just have to pick up. You say he considers himself in the hospitality business. He's the president of the United States.
Yeah, but that's his background. It's like
Mulvaney clarified, saying Trump used to be in the business. All of it, fuel for critics who say Trump forever seems to see little wrong in whatever he does as president, said Democrats on Doral Friday.
If he were a local government official, he'd be in prison for doing that.
Meanwhile, back on Fox News.
Does he understand? Forget the media, and does he understand that it looked lousy?
Well, I think he knows. He thinks that people think it looks lousy.
But as Trump himself heard at a rally last week, as the G7 story was making headlines, plenty of those who voted for him still back him and are still set to vote Trump again. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
The CBC's Go Public team has been investigating online banking fraud. There's no shortage of stories there. More than 200 people have reached out, including a BC man who had his bank account hacked and thousands of dollars stolen. As Erica Johnson tells us, there are calls for banks to take more responsibility when their systems are compromised.
It felt surreal. Like, I mean, no one wakes up thinking that, hey, money's going to be taken out of my bank account.
Last February, hackers targeted Sanjit Lidar's savings account, stole $3,000. While he was sorting things out, standing inside his branch, they grabbed $2,000 more.
I didn't feel safe at all, wondering, well, what could I do now? Money's gone and no one's there to help me.
Scotiabank refused to reimburse its customer, said the money was transferred from an IP address Lidar had an extensive history with, although cybersecurity experts say hackers can do that. Cyber criminals targeting bank accounts are a growing threat, according to a security advisor with an international team of investigators.
Banks have been fighting it for a long time now, and it has been becoming increasingly challenging for them because criminals have become increasingly sophisticated.
She helped uncover malicious software recently shut down that targeted North American financial institutions, including 2 Canadian banks, stealing an estimated $100 million from customers. As more bank customers lose their savings to hackers, this public policy researcher says it's not their fault. The bank should be required to take responsibility.
How does it make sense to blame the people who are using the tool that's given to them and are then victimized by the tool? We didn't build it, we're told to use it, and the persons or groups or organizations that are building these tools have to accept liability for their own failures.
Go Public asked the Canadian Bankers Association whether the banks would consider paying out when their systems are compromised. The CBA wouldn't address that question, saying protecting customer accounts is the bank's top priority. After Go Public contacted Scotiabank, it reimbursed Sanjit Lidar. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
And if you have a story you want investigated, send us an email at gopublic@cbc.ca. Some of the other stories we're watching tonight. The Canadian Embassy in Beirut will be closed tomorrow because of this. Those are protests across Lebanon, the largest in more than a decade, and they were triggered by newly announced taxes. Among the hundreds of thousands of protesters, a real show of unity in a country known for its sectarian divisions. And the masks were illegal, the marches themselves banned, but for the 20th straight weekend, tens of thousands of Hong Kongers peacefully protested the territory's leadership and the influence of Beijing. And then hardline protesters set fires, vandalized a police station and several pro-China businesses. And then after nightfall, police also detonated a suspected explosive device.
Further delay would be bad for this country, bad
for our European Union.
Brexit is supposedly October 31st, just days away, but surprise, surprise.
Order!
It may have hit a snag. In a rare Saturday session, the UK Parliament voted to postpone a decision on Boris Johnson's current Brexit deal.
The ayes to the right, 322.
The reaction from anti-Brexit protesters outside.
The noes to the left, 306.
Elation. In a signed letter, Johnson told the EU he didn't want another extension. And in an unsigned letter, he grudgingly asked for one anyway.
This will do a great deal of damage to the Union.
If Parliament rejects his divorce deal in the coming days, the EU is expected to grant that extension, meaning this whole 3-year purgatory could continue for months longer. Now, we turn to Anita Bath with a big story in Canadian sports tonight. Denis Shapovalov of Richmond Hill, Ontario, won the Stockholm Open. That's a huge deal for him and for Canadian tennis. Anita?
It's an end to Canada's men's tennis drought, as some have been calling it, Adrian. Denis Shapovalov pulling off this huge win at the Stockholm Open. Not only is it his first ever ATP title, he's also the first Canadian men's tour winner since Milos Raonic nearly 4 years ago in Brisbane.
We've been working really hard to try to lift an ATP title, so now we're here, you know, so thanks to everybody.
Shapovalov was seeded 4th and captured the Open with a straight sets win over Serbian Filip Krajinovic, proving he's got a place alongside the best players in the world. And of course, the hope for the 20-year-old is that this is just the first of many titles to come and a long career ahead. Adrian?
All right, thanks, Anita. What a year for tennis. Coming up, we have heard from them for the past 6 weeks. Our undecided millennial voters give us their final thoughts before heading to the polls tomorrow. Have they decided who gets their vote? That's next.
I'm Jamie Poisson, and tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast, Front Burner, on the eve of the Raptors home opener, we preview the season ahead and dig into the NBA's tension with China. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
With Election Day really just hours away now, let's check back with some voters we have followed throughout the campaign. And we've done that because they belong to a group who could prove very influential at the polls. Millennials make up the biggest voting bloc this time around. And these 5 started out undecided. Over the weeks, we have watched them weigh their options. And tonight, they give us their final impressions of the campaign and tell us whether they have finally decided who will get their vote.
Once again, hard to pick between parties when nobody really is showing us a way into the future.
We're starting to see that the progressive vote is being split.
There's been endorsements, like the endorsement by Obama to Trudeau.
Hi, this is Emily. My name is Saba Chaudhry.
I'm a voter in Vancouver Centre.
I live in the Souris Moose Mountain riding.
I am voting from the Yukon riding. In this final week of the campaign, I think most voters got what they needed to in order to decide who to vote for.
Having conversations with a lot of my family and friends who traditionally would usually vote Liberal are now split between voting Liberal or NDP. So I think that's going to impact the results of the election.
For me, it's definitely a surprise to see the neck-to-neck dynamic between the Conservatives and the Liberals, but it makes it more exciting.
I'm torn. Do I vote strategically to make sure that we can have a more progressive government, or do I take a chance and maybe go for another political party just to try something new?
And we should all be voting with our minds and our hearts on who we really want to vote for. I don't think strategic voting should even be a part of the conversation because that undermines the democratic process.
Let's choose a leader that can stand up for us on a world stage, making us a global leader in many of the areas we have the possibilities to do so.
At this moment in time, I'm no longer an undecided voter. I think that Justin Trudeau is the most qualified leader.
I'm definitely still an undecided voter. Again, I'm debating between the Liberals and the NDP. I have decided who I'm going to vote for. I will be voting for Andrew Scheer and the Conservative Party.
It's the first election I've ever been through where, you know, I'm still this undecided. The fact that I haven't taken advantage of advanced voting is shocking because I typically like to get out early and vote.
I haven't made up my mind this week on who I'm going to vote for. I'd actually like to keep it to myself and urge all other voters to make your mind up and get out on Monday. Let's have the highest turnout we've ever had to move Canada in the right direction.
Starting out this campaign as an undecided voter, I think definitely surprised me. I think I was surprised that I found kind of likes in all the party leaders with the exception of Justin Trudeau.
I will say that I am very inspired by Jagmeet Singh. I think he's going to have a bright future, and I'm very excited to see what happens next for him.
Jagmeet Singh really showed himself to me to be a very likable person. He seems quite honest when he's speaking. He seems very genuine.
When it came to this election campaign, I guess the one thing that surprised me was no clear-cut leader when it came to the debates, when it came to policies.
As for who's going to win the election, I don't think I can confidently say at this point. I think it's definitely a battle between the Conservatives and the Liberals.
I am predicting a minority Liberal government who's working with the NDP.
We're probably going to have a minority government, and who knows how they might turn out.
As we've seen in the past with minority governments, there will likely be a re-election within the next 2 years.
I currently predict that we're going to end up with a 150-seat minority government. It's for everybody to choose who that minority is going to be.
Okay, he's keeping it private. Ultimately, voters of all ages and backgrounds will decide this election. We have been speaking with Canadians across the country to better understand what's important to you. And so tonight, our voter vignette is from rural Saskatchewan.
I'm Jim. I live in Rosetown, Saskatchewan. I've been farming here for 34 years. I am apprehensive because all the talk, especially in the West here, about separation, and I've never seen it so bad. And a lot of guys that I would have never suspected are talking that way. My main concern is international trade that this current federal government doesn't seem to take too seriously. When I look at the candidates, I really kind of wonder if they truly understand the situation for grain farmers, and I would expect some of them to really to get themselves more immersed, as you know, it's cost us $4 billion so far. I vote because I think it's every citizen's duty to take part in the democratic process.
While we've all been focused on the tight race between political parties, earlier today, a couple of Canadians crossed a very different finish line. Their victory is our moment, and that's next. The Toronto Waterfront Marathon today gave our country two big wins to celebrate tonight. Dana Pidereski and Trevor Hoffbauer were the top Canadian female and male finishers of the race. And that's not all. Because of their races today, you will be hearing their names again. But next time, it will be at the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo. Their reaction to making the cut today is our moment.
I thought that maybe I wouldn't make it to the end because I was starting to feel really fatigued and heavy, so I never thought that I really had it until I turned that last corner. I don't think it's sunk in yet. Like I can't believe it. I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, I feel amazing.
This race is so long, and it gets so exhausting towards the end. Like your form breaks down, your glutes and your hamstrings just really starting to tighten up. But you just have to be gritty, and you just have to really want it. It's an automatic qualifying spot for Tokyo, and if you go under that standard of 2:11:30, you're going.
Yes! Way to go, dude! Holy shit!
I guess I got to book a couple flights tomorrow and see what happens.
Fantastic! Down here, Trevor.
Okay, that is amazing. So much respect for them. This has been an amazing period for marathon news. It was just last week that the Kenyan Eliud Kipchoge became the first person to ever run a marathon under 2 hours. It took him 1 hour, 59 minutes and 40 seconds. It takes me that long to convince myself to go for a run. So props to all of them. And listen, that's the National for October the 20th. We leave you now with another look At the CBC News election headquarters, final preps are underway ahead of tomorrow's special that begins at 6:30 Eastern. So good night, and here's to a smooth voting day tomorrow.